I think everyone's here. Welcome, everyone. My name's Cory Gundlach. I'm the Curator of African Art here at the Stanley Museum of Art. Welcome to New Perspectives on West African Ceramics, a conversation with Boureima Diamitani and Samuel Nortey. This talk tonight is funded by the Eskin Ceramics Art Initiative. Before I introduce our guests of honor, please join me for a moment of reflection while I read the University of Iowa Acknowledgement of Land and Sovereignty. I'm actually going to play a video so that sorry, just a second here. Here we go. Play a video of this for you.
The University of Iowa is located on the homelands
of the Ojibwe and the Anishinaabe, Bahoji,
Iowa,
Kickapoo, Ometmanewak,
Menominee,
Miamika,
Miami,
Natuchi,
Missouri,
Omaha, Wazaji,
Osage,
Jaware,
Oto,
Odawa,
Ottawa,
Ponca, Potawatomi, Nishnawbe,
Potawatomi,
Nishkwaki, Nemahaki, Sakawaki, Dakota, Lakota, Nakota, Sanish, Nubaga, Nuweta.
and the Ho-Chunk Nations.
The following tribal nations: the Omaha tribe of Nebraska and Iowa, Ponca tribe of Nebraska, Sac and Fox Nation of the Mississippi and Iowa, and Winnebago tribe of Nebraska continue to thrive in the state of Iowa, and we continue to acknowledge them.
As an academic institution, it is our responsibility to acknowledge the sovereignty and the traditional territories of these tribal nations,
and the treaties that were used to remove these tribal nations, and the histories of dispossession that have allowed for the growth of this institution since 1847.
Consistent with the university's commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion,
understanding the historical and current experiences of Native peoples will help inform the work we do.
Collectively, as a university, to engage in building relationships through academic scholarship, collaborative partnerships, community service, enrollment and retention efforts, acknowledging our past, our present, and future Native nations.
Okay. So it's my sincere pleasure to have Dr. Boureima Diamitani and Dr. Samuel Nortey here with us today. Just a little background on our own history. I've known Boureima since 2012 when I began working here at the museum as a research assistant. And Boureima's research on Senufo masquerades was part of the scholarship produced by the museum in relationship to our collection. So he and I corresponded way back in the day to make his research available on the museum's website back in 2012. More recently, my colleague Derek Nero and I traveled to Ghana together to explore opportunities for partnerships. And one of those was at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, or Tech as most people call it there, where I met with Samuel and other faculty members there at Tech. And I was just deeply humbled by Sam's hospitality and friendliness and excitement to explore possibilities for partnership. So I'm just delighted to have you here today as well to kick off this new partnership through this event this evening. So thank you both for being here. It's an honor to have you at the Stanley Museum of Art. To give you more of a background on our guests of honor this evening, Dr. Samuel Nortey is an associate professor at the ceramics section of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. With a PhD in African art and culture and a degree in ceramics from Tech, Sam works as an artist, art historian, art educationist, and choir master organist. Sam works with both contemporary and traditional artists and has a niche in developing the design thinking of local potters in Ghana and expanding their frontiers of ceramic production. On his contemporary ceramic practice, Dr. Nortey has worked on local and international exhibitions. He curated and participated in Building Bridges exhibition, Tiny But Mighty, Women Only, and Heroines in the Mines between 2022 and 2023. These exhibitions have been his effort of developing talents among young artists, especially women. A member of the National Council for Education for the Ceramic Arts, and a recipient of the Multicultural Fellowship Award, Professor Nortey has collaborated and served as a speaker and facilitator with Ceramics Research Center at Westminster University, London, New York University, University of Nevada, Reno, University of Florida, University of Arkansas, a university in Indonesia that I can't pronounce correctly, to mention but a few. Universitas Negeri Malangang. Okay. Sam is an external examiner for the School of Arts in local and international universities. Sam is a member of the Association of International Ceramics and has over 40 peer-reviewed articles in top refereed journals, including African Arts, Ijeta by Intellect, Teaching Artists Journal by Taylor and Francis, and 2 book chapter contributions. His upcoming art talk and exhibition is on 7th of March, we just passed this, on the theme of repatriation without preparation, activating museum visit and education. Our other guest, Dr. Boureima Diamitani. A native of Burkina Faso, is a museum professional with over 25 years experience in West Africa. He's a former executive director of the West African Museums Program, a network comprising approximately 200 museums of varying significance in 16 West African countries. The program is mandated to address and enhance the state of museums, which have been grappling with fundamental issues such as the risk of collection deterioration, a shortage of trained staff, and deficits in research activity, collection management, and programming. Before pursuing his doctoral studies in the United States, Dr. Diamitani served as the Director of Cultural Heritage and Museums in Burkina Faso. In this role, he redefined the cultural heritage policy in Burkina, designed and implemented new guidelines for museums, and curated numerous exhibitions. He earned his PhD here in 1999 from the School of Art and Art History under the supervision of the late Christopher D. Roy, my own advisor as well. During his studies at the University of Iowa with a Fulbright scholarship, he worked as a fellow at the National Museum of African Art, Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C., and at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City as a Coleman Fellow. Previously to his PhD, Dr. Diamitani studied urban planning and architecture in Lomé, Togo, and received heritage training at the School of Architecture in Marseille, France. Dr. Diamitani has previously collaborated with the World Bank, contributing to the development of projects and programs that integrate cultural and creative industries into the national development plans of African countries. As a museum professional well-versed in the arts and cultural heritage and the former director of WAMP, Dr. Diamitani has had the opportunity to visit numerous museums in Africa, Europe, and the USA. He collaborated with various institutions for the training of museum staff, overseeing guidelines and practices for the development of their permanent collections through acquisition strategies, exhibitions, and accompanying catalogs. Dr. Diamitani is fluent in English and French, I believe Jula as well, and is proficient in a few West African languages, including Jula. He is currently an independent scholar and consultant, and I'm also delighted to say that he was my co-conspirator / collaborator curator for the installation of African pottery that you see on view upstairs. So co-curator of that installation. So with that, please join me in welcoming our guests of honor this evening. We will begin with Dr. Nortey.
Thank you very much. You're all welcome. And I always begin my speech with this. I come from Ghana. If you're traveling from Ghana to the US and you are lucky to get a Delta flight, it takes you 11 hours to get to New York. You go through immigration and security, and then you connect your flight. So connecting to this place, to Chicago, to here, maybe 16 hours of flight. I'm only saying this so that at the end of my presentation, if it doesn't meet your standard, just think that I have done a long flight. So you just have to clap for me. So I came with my phone, and when it's time, when you are clapping, I'll just take a photo of that and show it to my family that I made a good trip to Iowa. Thank you for having me. Before I also start, I would like to introduce two of my students who have made a trip, and it's awesome for me. I have Vincent, we all call him Sniper, and then Keistoni. They were my undergraduate students in ceramics at KNUST, and through recommendation, they got MFA admissions to the US. Keistoni is in Nebraska, Lincoln. He's in his first year MFA, and Sniper just defended his MFA thesis in the University of Arkansas. So as an artist and a teacher and everything, for me, practicing in the studio is not just enough for me. I try to make sure whatever I do in the studio, I try to do a research and make a publication. So I am always trying to research and publish. And this is my Google Scholar. These are all my articles that I've been able to publish. A few of them that has been captured by Google Scholar. So that's me. My presentation is going to highlight the vitality of traditional ceramic practice and relevance in Ghana. And then I'm also going to discuss my role in sustenance and preservation, because I believe some of these practices are becoming extinct, but I believe that we need that vitality and that skill. And then thirdly, discuss new perspectives and emerging practices. First, the object we see there was done by J.K. Amwa, who was my professor. That has been the practice of Ghanaian ceramics, actually. Our pots are normally called Ebusian Krua. When translated, it means family pots. So our practice has always been that we need to be connected as one people, and that has been the philosophy of Ghanaian practice. The practice of ceramics in Ghana, and I think widespread Africa, has been the work of women predominantly. And it's been a practice that has been passed on from generation to generation. Women work together as they support their family in producing these vessels. They use these pigments in producing paints to even paint their houses, and that's the architectural things we see there. They do not use technology. Their major tool is the hand. And they normally fire these works using pit firing, where they dig the ground, pack the works into the ground, put woods on them, and then set them on fire. And after some time, they do not have a kiln to check the temperature, but they use experience and the change of color in the works, and they can see that the firing is done. So this is a typical, when technology was, this is a typical kiln that you could see that this kiln has gone through a lot of challenges. On the other side, we see the other one in the pot is a practice in the Volta region in Ghana. The one on the left is in Ashanti region. These women also produce big pots, very big pots, for storage of water. And what will be the case, there's a cooling effect in this water. Before the advent of refrigerators and stuff, these were where we're storing our waters, and we could have them very chilled and cooled, covered. So we didn't have running water in the home, so the rivers, you go fetch and you put it in these pots, and you keep them for serving. The other figure shows bowls that were done by women to serve their husbands and children. So they were serving bowls. And these bowls are kept exclusively to serve August visitors as well. It's a very decorated bowl for serving domestic. The very black one is for storage of cereals. Gari is one common cereal. I think the Nigerians love Gari, Ghanaians love Gari. I don't know whether Burkina Faso love Gari, but we keep rice, we keep these cereals in these. So we realized that these women were playing a very quintessential role in the life of the people. Then in 1942, we had a porter visiting, and that was Michael Cardew. Michael Cardew spent a lot of time, he was a British porter who spent a lot of time in Africa, especially in Ghana and Nigeria. Michael Cardew visited and saw the skills of these women and thought that it's time to develop their skills. So he built, it was the first time that he built something like a studio for them. And this studio was built in 1942. That was before independence. Ghana gained independence in 1957. So that was before independence. And this studio, strangely, I visited this studio 2 years ago, and all the women have been sacked from, let me use the word sacked from these studios, and it's being occupied by male porters. So today, these women have been pushed out of this studio, and they only serve as decorators of the pots. And as a scholar, as an artist, this is where for the past 3 years, I've been looking at how to sustain the practice of women, because I feel that they have been pushed or relegated to the background. Somebody that has provided skills and profession and support to family is now being relegated. So I did a lot of research and I came up with these statistics. And it is strange as a professor in a university. In K University, that's the first one. And then we have Sudan Technical University. We have University of Education, Winneba. Then we have pre-tertiary institutions. I was surprised that if you are looking at teaching stratified by gender, even in my university where I teach, there has never been a female teacher, a female professor in K University teaching ceramics. And I felt that this is an issue I need to take up personally and start working. It must start from somewhere. And that has been my research, my ongoing research on how to give women a fulfillment in the ceramic practice. I also did another study, and I realized that what has been the exhibition experiences of this gender, and I realized that there is no exhibition. There is no exhibition. Meanwhile, in K University, the ceramic program, when we talk about the graduation and we're looking at the highest grades, it's been attained by women. And the highest grade, I think, has been 74 point something, and it was by Nancy Frimpong. Nancy Frimpong graduated, I think, in 2015. Where is Nancy Frimpong now? She's working in the bank. So it means that we are losing talent. We train these talent, and by culture or by any other thing, they just move out of ceramic practice. So I realized that no, then there must be a model. There must be a model to look at how we can make women resilient in this time. I drew up this model again during the COVID time and see how we can be resilient in global pandemic. So I asked myself, can the corn grow in a metal scrap field? A corn is a very common crop in Ghana. Can it grow in a metal scrap? Can the corn grow in a petrol field land? Oh yes, we have to ensure that they grow. It means that even if the environment is not welcoming, we must be able to grow a corn to germinate within that space. And that article has been published. If you Google the link there, you for want of time, I don't want to go, but that's one of my models that has been published. So then I started working with women. So I went to the pottery centers and started working with that, you can see in Ashanti region. Working with them, I got so many papers, and I published one in a very top journal, design thinking. I started working on design thinking of these potters. So one of my, how do I preserve, I asked you a question, how do I preserve a cultural heritage that can be a museum of learning and engagement? As a professor, I made these traditional potters professors in my class. So I went to them and I realized that these women have the skills to manipulate clay more than I do. They have been working with clay for over 50 years. The skills they have is so tremendous. But because they've never been to school, or they cannot speak English, or they have been neglected, they'll feel relegated to the background and they are not attached to university. So I started working with them and I brought them to the university, just like Cory has brought me here today, or Lauren has brought me. And I wrote them as professors to teach my students. She's now Professor Vanelli. So I brought 3 of them, kept them in hotels, spent them the whole week teaching my students, having an interaction how to do the clay. One challenge was that they cannot speak English. And looking at the diversity in my class, because I had some Nigerians and staff in my class, it means that I had to be translating their conversation. But one thing I realized that at the end of the semester, the grades my student got in that subject was higher than previously. Then I realized that the students moved on from just understanding the clay to knowing the clay. Now, it's not just but they understand the clay. Then I realized that I may be a professor, but these women in the traditional potteries have something more than I don't have. So I'm only saying that sometimes we need to go back to these traditional potters and then learn from them. And I realized that this collaboration is bringing a lot of.
Thank you for joining Women Only exhibition.
Yes,
it's the last of my
so now I work
trilogies.
Women
we started with building
bridges
a couple of years ago, and then
who are in the university,
and this one is actually Women Only.
These are my
Why Women Only?
Women that
well, I feel that there is a platform that has to be given to them, especially from where our part of the region where I believe they've been marginalized in contemporary and academic spaces. Within the practice back in Africa, or where it's been women-centric. However, when it comes to the academic and the contemporary spaces, we've pushed them back. And I feel it's time for us to fill that spaces by giving them the platform to show what they are made up of.
All right, so that's for want of time, I don't show all the video, but that's me as the creator of that exhibition. And I had opportunity of having a friend in Nevada, Rebecca Bogart. So I invited her, and then she came with her husband. The husband wasn't an artist actually, but was a supply chain manager, but they were all interested. And I had this exhibition, critique time, and since then, we've seen women having that interest of having exhibition. The kind of exhibition you have here daily, on daily basis, we don't have that opportunity sometimes in Africa, or let me say in Ghana. And this is one of my projects that I have been doing.
So we are here today at Keyroin's exhibition.
This is what happened. This is one of the results that I'm getting
to highlight.
When I brought these traditional women here in university to help me in my teaching, okay, got to a time that we also went back
we do have
to their pottery center, and then their working center became a gallery for us. And then we had an exhibition in their gallery
upon themselves.
And this is what I call community cohesion, social inclusivity,
which is
it was a day, 28th August 2023, just last year.
Exuberant youth.
We brought all the community
so much
together.
interest in this.
It was a day that they cleared
these women are single-handedly preserving
the community, the chiefs, and everybody came
documentary
together.
photographers
And you asked for the first time. And these are people who are this women practices. Yes, they never paid attention to them.
which we call
And
Keyroin's
it is through this collaboration that now these women are receiving attention. I had a visitor from
These photographs
Adam Postner and his group from the University of Arkansas. They visited me. I took them there. When they left, they sent something small,
making an intention to know,
to be given to
wanting to be with them, to study with them, to know what they are doing.
aspect of their character. And I believe that these are positive heroes that are very one that they can see the entire community in Africa at one place, and they're so excited.
And what they are
I believe that
different
if
form.
you are doing your artwork and your artwork is not making a positive influence on society, then rethink what you are doing, because our practice must make society better. All right, so these are 3 of my projects that I've shown. In my extensive travels, sometimes in Ghana, I did sometimes with one of my students, my former students, who is now also a very top artist in Ghana, Frederick Okain, Ebenezer Okain. And we went around collecting pots. So the pots you see are not pots from just one area, but they are pots from Upper West, Upper East, Volta region that has been put in an installation. Then these pots are not mine, but I want these traditional potters to be happy. So I appropriate this pot. But I only do paintings in them, and I do an installation, an exhibition. And they came, and they were so happy. We call it conviviality. They look at their own thing, then they ask the question: Is that our product? I said, yes, that's your product, but I've just added something to it. And they are so excited. And I believe these are some of the things we could be doing. This is one of my students, Alex Ewuku. These are new perspectives that are now coming up in our practices, integrating basketry in our ceramic practices, and how do we break? So we teach our students that if you want to break into the global world in ceramic practice, you need to show resilience. You need to be strong. Today we were in a class with Cory students, and we were asking questions. How do you need to network, but for you to break out there, you need to be strong. It's just like beyond the plane, and there are turbulence. But the pilot doesn't say that I'm returning back to where I took off from. No, you need to face the wind and make sure you go through the wind. And these are some of the works. This is one of my professors. Like I said, the Ebusuakurua, Kofi Asante taught me, but he's dead now, and he has been working on family cohesion. That's Kofi Asante, family cohesion. And his student, Jafet Asedo Kwati, who also studied here at Chicago, I think Illinois, Eastern Illinois, and is now teaching at Texas, Edinburgh. That is, so, I mean, a family cohesion thing. My work sometimes also addresses social issues. I come from Ghana. Ghana, before our independence, we were called Gold Coast. It means that we were the largest producer of gold. We were also, I think, second largest producer of cocoa. Yet in my country, strangely, we can import chocolate. When cocoa, even chocolate, is very, very expensive in my country when we have cocoa. So then we go around sometimes begging. We are begging people for hands, begging people. So I came out with this, that no, the hands are not for begging. And this was in 2019. This exhibition was created by Ginny Hulin, Peju. Yes, and so I look at a drawing from Asante and Benin terracotta works, as well as other. I recontextualize these forms, and then I tell them that we are blessed with resources. I use cowrie as a symbol of resource, and then these cowries are dropping on African lands. Yes, we are unable to develop these resources, and we run to people begging. And you know what begging does? When you go and you beg and somebody is giving you something, it comes with conditions. And sometimes these conditions could be very negative on your practice. So recently I was happy when our president said, Ghanaian president says African countries must wean themselves of begging. And I realized that my traveling exhibition is at least making some inroads, that we have the resource. All that we need is to put the resources into working, and then we stop begging. So that's it. Some of our new perspectives are we show power, and I'm happy that Sniper is here. Sniper, let's see you. This is the work of Sniper. Oh, stand and let everybody see you. He's one of my students. That's it. That's his work. Maybe one day, Sniper, you'd like to show your work in Stanley Museum. And I think this work is in the US or it's in Ghana? In the US now. Okay. So where do we stand? Where do I stand? Power within. We need the power to. Yeah, so I also talk about unity. These are my 3 recent work. I was trying to use how I can infuse metals, and the glaze. I developed a glaze. I was trying to see how it would melt on the pots and drape and stuff like that. I cannot finish this presentation without adding my voice to the recent discussion or restitution or repatriation, especially when I'm making a presentation in a museum like Stanley Museum. Although I am for repatriation, I believe that my recent art talk was there must be preparation. Repatriation with preparation. Or I'm asking the question, repatriation without preparation? I believe that Africans, one of our major challenge has been that we have never cherished our works. I know. Because we don't even visit our museums. These artifacts that people run over to come and see over, is if they're in the museums, people will not go and see. We have never cherished that we are Africans. And I
have received your rather interesting note. You recommend
this movie
changes
was
that are
the
quite
first
fundamental.
movie in Ghana, and it
Although I
was
couldn't agree with you
titled
more on the rather
Heritage
general
Africa.
nature of your note, I think I should like to be quite clear in my mind exactly what changes I might have to recommend to His Majesty's office.
This is the governor, the British governor, at
For
the
example,
time of both.
first you talk about, and I
And
quote,
the man you
a
see sitting in
man's
front of the
struggle
governor
for what is his
was
right
the
cannot be
district
denied him.
commissioner called the DC.
How exactly do you mean?
At that time, he was the one who has been to school.
So,
If you listen to what
for instance, I think that while an African at school is taught the meaning of the scriptures in the Bible and the Quran, while he's taught to take pride in other people's values, he should, for example, know the meaning of the pouring of libations. I think a man must know where he comes from to help him find his bearings, Your Excellency. Your Excellency, when I was born, I was named Kwesi Atabusmefi, and my name had meaning. Kwesi means a Sunday born, Ata means a twin. Busmefi means an illustrious ancestor is born again. Then I started school. I was christened. I began to learn the English language, along with all the values that come with it. And then I began to feel that, well, that my name was, well, perhaps the very sound of it was primitive, inferior. So I anglicized it. Kwesi became Quincy, Ata became Arthur, and Busmefi became Bosumfield.
All right, so that's the message I wanted to say. The DC changed his name because he felt inferior, that he had a Ghanaian name. So he changed his name, Kwesi to Quincy, Ata, who is a twin, to Arthur, and then Bosumfield to Bosumfield. So he became Quincy Arthur Bosumfield. We never cherish what we are. Then it's the same DC. The mother came to visit, and for want of time, I just want to run. So you see, this artifact has been given to Kwesi. It is a family artifact, a cultural artifact. It's been passed on from generation to generation. This was given to Kwesi.
We don't do it.
That is now a big man, so he should get hold of it. What happened to Kwesi?
Fini. Mango for
In the morning, early in the morning, when the mother gave him that artifact, he ran back to the governor.
Good morning, Quincy. Isn't this call rather unexpected?
I'm sorry, sir, but I thought there's something of historic importance that I thought you should see, sir.
Oh, quite in order. What is it? Please sit down.
Thank you, sir.
Exquisite.
Exquisite. Want of time, we just have to push exquisite. But the summary of the thing is that he gave the artifact to the governor as a gift. And the governor quickly arranged, and the gift was sent back to England. Perhaps maybe to the British Museum, I can't tell. Later on, when he wanted the thing back, they grabbed that within is in British Museum. So for me, I believe not all were looted. I am making this case in this repatriation era that we need to do a lot of providences to understand these cases. And we need to make sure that we have done a lot of preparation whilst sending these works. Because for me, it's not about the repatriation. My concentration is on the artifact that has been an archive of history, something that we learn from. If we lose that artifact, we are losing education. Because as an educationist, I believe that we will one day leave. For us, in the next 70 years, most of us would have left this world. But the artifact will remain and it will teach generations to come. So we need to keep hold of that. And that is where this is one of my installations. It looks very conceptual. These are 2 chairs. What are the chairs for with a book? Sit here, I sit over there with dialogue. So I look at this situation of the repatriation. 1, a baby is giving birth. And whether it is stolen from the mother or given, we cannot tell. But somebody comes for the baby. And the person takes care of this baby. And this is my illustration, my own illustration. And it's a metaphor to this repatriation case. He takes care of the baby. The baby now is on a podium and he becomes a very big man and he's receiving international acclaims and stuff. Then somebody goes to this baby and tells the baby, look, that person who is taking good care of you is not your biological parent. Go, your biological parents are somewhere. Go and see them. What happens? The person goes back to his biological parents. Say, oh, yes, daddy, mommy, yeah, I'm good. But what happens? Are you going to neglect the person who took care of you? That is the question. I don't think any sensible person will do that. You go back to your biological mother, but the person who has taken care of you up to this age, you have a link with that person, and you must collaborate and embrace all of them. And that is where I end this presentation, that I believe in this museum discussion of repatriation, collaboration and training is the best way to go. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful to everybody. I'm grateful to Dr. Lauren Lesson, the director. I'm grateful to Cory, Kimberly, everybody for bringing me you all over from K University, Ghana to Iowa Stanley Museum. Thank you so much.
Okay, I'm not a professor, I'm not an artist, I'm an administrator. So, and also I spent the last 25 years almost in West Africa, and I speak a lot of French. So I want you to be patient and to be accommodated with my accent and also with my presentation. Today I'm going to, so I am Boureima Diamitani, and native of Burkina Faso, a landlocked country. Okay, yes.
Let's see. Let's move this over.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Burkina Faso used to be called Upper Volta. I think for some people who used to know Burkina Faso used to be Upper Volta, but the name was changed in 1983 by the former president called Thomas Sankara, who just during a revolutionary coup d'etat. And also Burkina Faso also is a land of mosque. Many people know Burkina Faso for mosque. During today's discussion, I think I will cover 4 main points. Firstly, I will provide an overview of my academic and professional background, highlighting my experiences at the University of Iowa and my work in West Africa. I will share insights gained from working in the region and how these experiences have shaped my understanding of this culture and people. Secondly, I will talk a little bit about the significance of pottery. I think my colleague and friend Sam used to talk a lot about pottery, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about that. Thirdly, I will address the security situation in Burkina Faso and its impact on artisan and pottery production within the country. Finally, I will touch on the topic of the repatriation of looted African art objects, including ceramic from Western museums to Africa. Okay, transitioning from my role of, as director of the National Museum of Burkina Faso from 1989 to 1993, I embarked on an academic journey to the University of Iowa under the mentorship of the late Professor Christopher Roy, a specialist of the art of Burkina Faso. I applied to the University of Iowa and was awarded a Fulbright Fellowship in 1993. This fellowship paved the way for me to return to Iowa to pursue my PhD, which I completed in 1999. My focus study revolved around the rich artistic heritage of the Senufo people. I think here it is with Professor Roy in 1999, and I think in my village in Burkina Faso with Professor Roy. After my doctoral studies at the University of Iowa in 1999, I moved to Dakar in Senegal as a executive director of the West African Museum Program, an African non-profit organization that supports museums. My scholarly journey at the University of Iowa delved deep into the intricate artistry of the Senufo people, mainly focusing on the enigmatic Como masks embedded within the Senufo culture. The Como mask symbolizes a spiritual realm serving as a protector and problem solver imbued with divine powers. In addition, my association with the University of Iowa introduced me to a broader audience, museum professional and African art and culture specialists in the United States. I just got, when I was here, I got the chance to travel to attend many seminars and conferences where I just got the chance to meet with many museum specialists in New York, Boston, and Los Angeles, and everywhere. While investigating the Como mask in my country, my home country, I seized the opportunity to explore, because when I was here, my primary study was not the pottery. I was working on Como, and it is when I was doing my research in Africa that I took the opportunity to look at, to explore the role of the pottery among the Senufo community. Among the Senufo, pottery crafting prominently involved Jeli women, because Senufo themselves, they don't make pottery. They don't make pot. It is generally a community called the Jeli women. That the Jeli are a community that settled in the Senufo region after migrating from the south of Mali to the southwest of Burkina Faso in the 19th century. Talking about pottery, pottery is among the most vital artistic tradition in many parts of Africa. Potters, who are women in the majority, produce containers of various sizes and shapes for storing foodstuff and water. Larger round jar, we just saw some large round jars for brewing beers, local beers, and smaller pot for cooking. Some are made to honor deity, kings, and community. I think here we have some large jars. Okay. Generally, pottery manufacture in Africa is carried out in 5 basic steps: preparing the clay, molding, drying, firing, and decorating. In some regions of Africa today, pottery production is losing its aesthetic quality and ritual relevance. This is partly due to European imposition of colonial rule in the 20th century and the use of new imported containers that destabilize the functional processes of pottery, among others, significantly affecting the practice of this artistic expression. These ceramic vessels shown at the museum exhibition upstairs will inspire more scholars in African art to conduct research and to continue the effort in documenting cultural tradition and innovation. As I said, ceramics in Africa serve different purposes. Household utensils, we saw some soon, and decorative artifacts, ritual and cultural significance. For example, here is, I think we have almost the same thing in Ghana too. It is for decorating, and also you have some little pots in front of the house. They are served for, generally for rituals. Every house sometimes as is, if sometimes it is a entire case for a house for the deities. Sometimes it is just a pot or something like in front of entrance, because they put that in front of the entrance to prevent devils, to prevent bad things to happen inside, to go inside the house. And also we have some musical instruments. This is like percussion. For the National Museum of Burkina Faso, as director of National Museum of Burkina Faso, my responsibilities extended to overseeing the National Museum and Regional Museum, because we have the title of Director of Cultural Heritage, but the Director of Heritage is also at the same time the Director of the National Museum, and also at the same time the Director of different museums inside the country, because we have a National Museum, also we have the regional museums, sometimes called local museum or community-based museums. And it is crucial to address misconceptions. Despite my dedication, misconceptions persisted about the role of museum, reflecting broader societal misunderstanding. In fact, in our region, West Africa and many parts of Africa, museums are not very priority of government of population. How Samuel said lately, generally people don't go to museum. If you look at, this is the entrance of the National Museum of Burkina Ouagadougou. On the right, it is a presentation, an exhibition. You look at, we have a lot of masks, a lot of objects, but sometimes it is very difficult for people. They are not interested really to go to visit this kind of exhibition, because you see head of mask. When we talk about mask in Burkina, we talk about mask in Africa, it is the mask with the head, with the costume, with the music, and also with everything around. And every week or every 2 weeks, everywhere in our region, we have performances, mass performances. Sometimes it is for celebrating a wedding, celebrating a funeral, celebrating something, and people are involved in the celebrations. And to go to a museum to just look at the head, they are not interesting. It is why sometimes you don't have many people visiting the museum. When I was working with museum directors in West Africa, their preoccupation is that people don't visit our museum. We don't have audience. And I used to tell them, you know, what you are presenting, what you are showing to people is not what so probably they want to see, because people come to museum also for education, to be able to get some education, to learn something. And when I was nominated in 1989, first director of National Museum, my first exhibition was about bicycles and motorcycles in Burkina Faso. because those who know Burkina Faso is a country of bicycles and motorcycles. Every house has a bicycle and motorcycles. And so this exhibition, there were a lot of people who come to see, because we try to show the history of a bicycle in Burkina Faso since the 19th century. And we try to find around in the city and some cities and around different pieces of these motorcycles and bicycles to present. When I assume the role, what I say is the role of the collection like Guinea's pottery object with only archaeological artifacts. At this time, the primary collection of the National Museum predominantly consisted of items collected by French researchers who primarily focused on masks, statues, on utilitarian objects. Because we did not have a museum was built was created in our area, French region and also Anglophone region during the colonial period. And this primary mission was to collect objects from what they call indigenous people, to show this object to people in Europe, to try to explain the colonization, because essentially the French, they used to say we have a civilization mission in Africa. So we are coming to civilize these people. These people have and they try to collect their costume and object, everything to bring it. Because in France, in Paris, there was a big museum, Musée des Colonies, who was hosting all these objects to show French people that, okay, what we are, your money, taxpayer money, we are using that to colonize, to help these people who are not, you see how there are, okay. What I was saying is that my mission was to collect more objects, and because among out of the 62 ethnic groups in Burkina Faso, only there are objects of about 12 groups were represented in the National Museum. My foremost objective was to diversify the collection by acquiring objects from a broad range of ethnic groups. Now, okay, here is, for example, we are talking about, for example, it is a storage. This picture was taken in, I think maybe 2016 or 17. So to show how the collection are in the different museums, how the storage are, and how people are not very aware of taking care of. And this one is going to talk about the repatriation. We are talking about the repatriation. Sometimes you even don't know what you have in your museum. If you look at all these objects, there is no identification. They don't know exactly what it is, where it's coming from. And I think we have to take care of this first before trying to repatriate some other objects. Okay, as executive director of WAMP, I extensively traveled across all 16 Western countries. I visited all types of museums, from national and public to private and community-based museums. However, apart from a few museums in Nigeria and Ghana, ceramics did not hold significant prominence in their collection. Generally, in the different collections, this is the National Museum of Mali. The preoccupation, the exhibition was not pottery. It was essentially mask and different other things. This include, although there are archaeological museums that include ceramic artifacts, West African ceramics continue to face numerous challenges. These include the poor quality of existing collection, limited access to reliable and contemporary ceramic research information, inadequate conservation and storage facilities, and insufficient funding for the maintenance and expansion of collections to encompass a broader range of historical and contemporary ceramics. Moreover, the scarcity of ceramic expert, conservator, curator, and academic further complicates the production of high-quality exhibition. Museum also grapples with low attendance rate among African nationals, particularly those born after independence. Many are unaware of the removal of African art during the colonial period, lack an understanding of museum cultural significance and program, or feel disconnected from their ancestral heritage and the archaeological and historical ceramic house in these institutions. It's what I was saying just before. People don't attend museum because they are not really connected with museum, with their tradition, with their culture. Now, about the security situation on Burkina Faso. For people who just follow the news, you know that for these last 6 years, Burkina Faso in the region of Sahel, Burkina Faso, Niger, Mali, there is a lot of security problems there. There are a lot of terrorists, people coming from Al-Qaeda and ISIS, fighting, killing people over there for Islam purpose. The insecurity in Burkina Faso escalated in 2015 after the Western intervention led by France resulted in the killing of Muammar Gaddafi in Libya. Following Gaddafi's death, Libya descended into chaos, leading to the return of Malian native rebels, particularly the Tuareg, who were allied with Gaddafi, to Mali armed with weaponry. This sparked a rebellion in northern Mali with support from Al-Qaeda and ISIS. This was in the 2012, and it was with the intervention of the French army that the rebels did not take Bamako. So since the French army was based in Mali, saying that they are fighting terrorists. And also, if you follow the news, you know that since last year, there are a lot of movement, anti-French movement in this region, because population, the young people are saying that, in fact, French army is not there to fight the terrorists, but they are there to help the terrorists. So in Burkina Faso, in Mali, last year, they just asked the French army to leave the country. They left the country. In Burkina Faso, also last year, there is a coup d'etat, and the military asked the French army to leave the country. And this year, I think in Niger, if you see, there was also a coup d'etat, and they asked the French army to leave. And also, it is not in Niger. It's not Niger. It's not only the French, but also the American, because in Niger there is a very big American base, a drone base in Niger. And just I think 2 weeks ago, the government asked them to leave the country, because they say that they are there for many years, but terrorism is still gaining. It is what I was talking to Samuel this morning, saying that 2 days ago, also every day there are some killings in different villages. The terrorists, they kill 73 people, generally women. They don't choose. They kill women, they kill children, they kill everyone they find on the road. And we used to have a French army there, but they are doing nothing. Okay, but Burkina Faso remained relatively stable until the brutal departure from the power of former President Cory, who was involved in negotiating with the Malian rebels. For 27 years, we used to have a president called Blaise Compaoré. Blaise Compaoré just was a mediator, we call it mediator, between Malian rebels and the government. But in 2014, he was chased from the power there was a coup d'etat, and since this date, Burkina Faso is in trouble. Okay, regarding internal displacement, as of June 2023, Okay, see National Museum of Niger, and you see the storage also. Okay, we see the National Museum of Mauritania. If you look at, we have only some the ceramic we have. It is archaeological pieces. Generally, people don't present. Okay, so over 67,000 from Burkina Faso sought refuge in neighboring countries, including Mali, Niger, Cote d'Ivoire, Togo, Benin, and Ghana. Simultaneously, more than 2 billion people were internally displaced within Burkina Faso, marking one of the most severe internal displacement crises in Africa. All these people now in Burkina Faso, the first safe places are the big cities, Ouagadougou, Bobo-Dioulasso, but all around the different villages, people have to flee because the terrorists are killing them. They go there, because what happened is Al-Qaeda and ISIS, they were chased from Syria and Iraq, and they just moved to the Sahel, to West Africa. So they are trying to create what they call a caliphate in this region. And it is now they are trying to chase people from the different villages, because they go to the village, they kill everyone, and we have to flee. And people are going to Ouagadougou, going to, every day people are fleeing, going to the big city to get refuge. Yeah. You see, there are now a lot of refugee camps everywhere, and now they are confront the displaced individual confront numerous challenges, including limited access to essential services like food, water, shelter, and healthcare. Additionally, they face the risk of human rights by abuses encompassing gender-based violence and child recruitment by armed group. Because 5 years ago, these rebels were coming from Mali, from different parts of, but today they are recruiting people among the population, because now all these people, you see, the children, they are not going to school, they don't go to school anymore, there are nothing to do. So the rebels just go to the different villages, they give them maybe 50,000 CFA, $100. And they just join because they find it is a lot of money. So today, there are these people who are fighting their own people. Okay, so, now pottery making is a traditional craft in Burkina Faso, mainly practiced by people living in the rural area. The process of pottery making involves several stages. As I said, in northern Burkina Faso, every small village is home to female potters who work hard to produce ceramic, water jars, food storage pots, and traditional tubular gutters used on flat mud roofed houses. The surplus pottery is sold to generate much needed income, because which help families survive during the dry season and prevents starvation. Now with the security situation mentioned earlier, present a significant challenge for women, primarily in pottery making in rural areas, due to the distribution and supply chain, including the inavailability of raw material and market to sell their products, their livelihood, and at risk. Because these people in their areas, they have their place where they can find the good raw material, and also they have their market around. With this situation, they have to flee their village, since they don't have any more where to get this material. And now the situation creates a pressing problem for pottery production and its community's economic stabilities. It is crucial to address these issues and implement measures that support these women and their work, such as providing alternative supply chain and market, ensuring their safety and security, and promoting their products to broader audiences. Now, with all these people doing nothing, I think 2 million, today we have more than 2 million, almost more than 2 million people in different camps in Burkina Faso. They used to have their field, they used to have their life in their village, they used to have their activities. Every time when people talk to them, they say, we don't need help. What we are saying is that we don't want to beg, we want to work, we want to go back to our village, but the situation is not propice right now. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about, going to come to the repatriation. In 2019, Barbara Thompson co-curated an exhibition titled A Different Perspective, African Ceramic Collection, Duke Vance of Bavaria. This exhibition showcased the African ceramic collection of His Royal Highness Franz Duke of Bavaria, who generously donated this work to the Design Museum in Munich. My contribution to the exhibition comprised a brief essay focusing on West African perspective regarding issue of provenance, the management of cultural heritage in African ceramic, and the complexity surrounding the repatriation of ceramic art. The discourse surrounding the repatriation of African objects gained significant momentum in November 2017 when French President Emmanuel Macron announced his decision to return African objects plundered during French colonization in the 19th century during a visit to Burkina Faso. However, even before this landmark announcement, the African countries, notably Nigeria, Ethiopia, and Ghana, had been vocal about repatriating African objects from Europe. The disparities between Western and African museum collections have been under intense scrutiny since the eve of African independence movement. In 1969, the Pan-African Cultural Manifesto of Alger insisted on recovering the works of art and archive looted by the colonial powers, and called for the necessary measures to stop the hemorrhage of cultural pottery leaving the African continent. UNESCO tackled the issue by adopting the 1970 UNESCO Convention on prohibiting and preventing the illicit import, export, and transfer of ownership of cultural property. This international accord came into effect in 1972. However, many Western and African nations were slow to adopt, ratify, or enforce the policy. Hence, the illicit removal, especially of archaeological African ceramic, continue well into the present, despite the pressure from member states and the criticism among African intellectual and civil societies. In 2017, French President Emmanuel Macron again reignited the unresolved restitution debate in a speech in Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso. He appointed Professor Felwine Star and Benedict Sawai as advisors on this issue. They propose that restitution should be limited to objects that were taken during military aggression, forcibly removed by soldier administrators or their descendants during the colonial period between 1885 and 1960, forcibly purchased during major French scientific expedition in Africa in the 20th century, or illegally acquired after independence through illicit trading. However, these conditions are currently being discussed. Given the various factors outlined above, the question arises of which African countries can accommodate the necessary infrastructural requirement for responsibly receiving and preserving returned objects. Restitution of African art, including ceramic, requires conscientious engagement from the international community, especially Western Museum hosting these collections. To achieve this, people should advocate for African national, regional, and local museums as recipients of restituted objects. This should involve enhancing funding to develop, upgrade, and manage institutional infrastructure, improving the quality and diversity of collection, funding mutual agreeable solution toward restitution, and developing mutually benefit policies. Western and African museums must cultivate professional and technical relationships to promote the development of well-trained African museum staff, notably curators, conservators, and cultural agents responsible for researching, conserving, and publishing West African artistic heritage. In today's globalized world, professional, sustainable solutions are feasible through partnership between Western and African cultural institutions. This could involve the development of remote seminar, lecture, and conference, as well digitizing collection to enable better access for researchers and museum experts worldwide. The role of African ceramic in American museum can vary depending on the museum collection focus, curatorial priorities, and exhibition theme. However, African ceramic often serve several important roles in American museums. Cultural representations. African ceramic play a crucial role in representing the diverse culture, tradition, and artistic practice of the African continent. They offer insights into the rich culture, history, craftsmanship, and symbolism embedded within African society. Secondly, educational tools. African ceramic serve as educational tools for museum visitors, helping to promote cross-cultural understanding and appreciations. Exhibitions featuring African ceramic provide opportunities for learning about different cultural practices, technological advancement, and artistic techniques. And historical context. African ceramic provide valuable historical context within museum collection. They offer glimpses into past societies, economic system, and trade networks, shedding light on the dynamic cultural exchange between Africa and other regions of the world. Finally, artistic inspiration. African ceramic often inspire contemporary artists and artisans, both within and outside of Africa, by showcasing traditional and innovative ceramic techniques. American museum can stimulate creativity and encourage dialogue about the intersection of tradition and modernity in artistic expression. And also, another point, cultural exchange. Exhibiting African ceramic in American museums facilitate cultural exchange and collaboration between African and American community. I think it is why today also we are here to talk a little bit about this. It provides opportunities for dialogue, partnership, and mutual appreciation of artistic and cultural heritage. Overall, African ceramic play a multifaceted role in American museums, contributing to cultural enrichment, education, and intercultural dialogue with diverse audiences. In conclusion, I will say, that the rich and diverse history of ceramics in West Africa deserve careful consideration in exhibition effort. Despite the challenges of tracing ownership histories and navigating the colonial legacy, collaboration between Western and African stakeholders is crucial for preserving and promoting West African cultural heritage, including ceramics. By working together to steward and exhibit this cultural object, future generations can be inspired and gain a deeper appreciation for West African tradition. As we move forward, it is essential to recognize the significance of pottery in Africa as a whole, historically and currently. While traditional pottery faces insecurity and competition from cheaper alternatives, he sees a growing need to support and showcase contemporary African art. This includes promoting artists and establishing dedicated museum section or institution to exhibit their work. Thank you.